Welcome to the Corporate Detox podcast. I'm your host, Amanda McWhorter. I'm a corporate dropout, recovering people pleaser and perfectionist turned burnout recovery coach. If you are sick of the corporate roller coaster ride and ready to step into a life you love, this is the podcast for you. Hey there, welcome back to the Corporate Detox podcast. I'm your host, Amanda McWhorter, and today we are doing part one of a two-part series that is going to be diving into my brand new ebook called Corporate Crossroads, Should I Stay or Should I Leave? And for those of you watching on YouTube, you can grab this ebook. I'm going to link this in the show notes for everyone listening to the podcast. So this ebook really has been something that I've been thinking about for a while. I typically, in the past, have delivered some of this in like an email series, and I wanted to be able to give you something tangible that you can use to really help discern whether you want to stay in your corporate career or if you want to leave it. So today we're going to dive into really the first part, which is, should I stay? Okay. But before I get started with that, I want to talk a little bit about being on the fence, right? So if you're listening to this, you might be at a point in your career where you know that something has to change, but you've been on the fence for quite some time, right? This is the time of year, I'm recording this in February, and this is the time of year when a lot of companies are giving out or close to giving out bonuses for like their last fiscal year. So this is a really good time for you to start working through where you are, especially if you've been on the fence. Because what I will tell you is when you're on the fence for too long, things start to get really uncomfortable. You continue to stay stuck. And in the corporate world, I'll call it the dangling carrot when it comes to incentives, right? So typically the dangling carrot in my eyes is that you make it to the end of the fiscal year, right? You get ready for bonus time. So you don't want to leave until you get that bonus. You get the bonus, and then you say, oh, well, you're kind of on a high, especially if you've got a nice bonus. Oh, this is great. I've got this extra money. And then you get to a point again where you're on the fence again. And then it's like, oh, I don't want to leave until my yearly raise. And maybe that is strategically placed in the middle of the year. And that is what I call the dangling carrot. So let's dig into some reasons why you should stay in your career. So the first reason that a lot of folks decide to stay in their corporate career is for amazing benefits. You know what I'm talking about, right? So when you think about amazing benefits, some of the ones that I can think of are health insurance, life insurance, maybe having some paid time off, that continues to grow every year. You might have discounts related to the company that you work for. There could be scholarships. There could be paid parental leave. There could be, paid time off as far as taking like a medical leave or things like that, right? So to be able to stay for the benefits is definitely something that people need to keep in mind, right? Especially if you're at a time in your life where I say, there might be a big life event happening. Maybe you're getting ready to add to your family. Maybe you have a surgery coming up, something like that, where you're like, oh, hold up. This is a definite reason that I want to stay. The next reason that a lot of people decide to stay is for consistent paychecks. So a lot of people look at having a corporate job as a security blanket, right? And it's stable. You're consistently getting paid. There's not really ever a time normally where you don't get paid. Now, here's the thing with consistent paychecks. Yes, that can be a security blanket, but what I want you to remember is that each day hundreds of people get laid off. And if you listen to the podcast that just came out with Dr. Tracy Schroyer, we talked all about layoffs. So there's definitely more in there. And one of the things that she talked about was she never thought that she would really leave that career, right? That company. It was a security blanket for her. Even though she had thought about it at times, she wanted to have her own business, but she was really not able to get past that security piece. And what happened is she ended up getting laid off, as well as part of her team. So I know that you've probably heard of a lot of folks that are getting laid off recently. It seems like it's in the news all the time. If you're on LinkedIn, there's people on there constantly talking about their layoffs. So just remember, even though that consistent paycheck might be a reason that you're staying now, it isn't something to be banking on long term, because for any of us, we could lose that at any point. Another reason that some folks decide to stay at the company that they're at or in that corporate career is a great company culture. So many times when I talk about company culture, I talk about toxic company cultures because, quite honestly, at the end of my corporate career, that's what I was experiencing. And that is what a lot of my clients are experiencing when they come to me. But there are plenty of companies out there that truly are people focused and do have a great company culture. So if that's you, I can totally see why you would decide to stay. One of the next reasons is alignment with company values. So, values alignment to me is very, very, very important. And maybe you're listening to this and you have never really thought of it before. I want you to think about it this way, right? If you were friends with someone and their values were like totally different than your own, you most likely would cut ties with them or at least put the brakes on that relationship a little bit, right? But folks that are in a toxic company culture at times don't think that way, right? They just think it's the way it is. So, for those of you that have an amazing company culture, maybe you feel like family, maybe you truly enjoy what what your company is doing. You feel really, really, really aligned with the values. I see you and I see why you're staying. Maybe the mission of the company or of your position within the company really truly is something you're passionate about. Another reason to stay might be the relationships that you have within the company. So think about it. Some folks are recruited by people that they know, maybe former coworkers, maybe people you went to school with, you just know in the community, family members, friends. You might have an existing relationship, and that might be the sole reason that you stay there, right? Is because of how loyal you are to those folks. That can be great. That can absolutely be amazing. On the flip side of that becomes when those relationships change, right? Maybe those folks leave the organization. Maybe those folks retire, right? And someone else takes their position. Things can change so quickly, so just be aware of that. Another reason can be you simply enjoy the work that you do. So, I talk to folks and they're like, hey, I love it. I love the work that I do. I don't get paid a lot. Maybe they're in like a mission field and they're like, this is what I am on this earth to do. I see you. Totally. And I can totally understand why you would stay if you're in that situation. Another reason would be incentives, right? So think about bonus structure. Think about that dangling carrot that I just talked about, right? A lot of those incentives are what keep people there. Upcoming life events. I already touched on that a little bit when we talked about like insurance. But some other upcoming life events that you might want to take into consideration if you are in this mode where you're worrying about, you're trying to decide if you're going to stay or if you're going to leave. Think about if you have, let's say you're getting married soon. Maybe you are expanding your family. Maybe you're moving across the country, buying a house, making a big life purchase. Large life events are a very valid reason to stay. So those definitely should be kept in the mix when you're making your decision. Some folks stay just for the prestige and the recognition. Now, I know that this this wasn't my experience, but for some people it is, right? They love being the boss. They love being that person that's out in the community. Maybe you are like, people relate you with your career, and maybe that's something that you're not willing to give up. So, if so, I'm sure you're going to sway on the side of staying. And then there is a clear career path and promotion opportunities. So, I truly think that we've all seen that a lot of folks, the majority of folks, don't stay at one company their entire life, right? And if they do, that is becoming fewer and fewer and fewer than maybe our parents' generation. It's really important to me that people understand what their promotability is and what their career path is, and like, what does that look like for you in the future? Because to me, being able to plan, be very strategic, and to not feel like you're stuck in any position is very, very, very important. A lot of people in my former corporate life, when they felt that there was nothing more for them to attain, that really weighed on the decision of, am I going to be happy in my job or am I going to be miserable every day? It also weighed in on the decision of, am I going to stay here or am I going to go somewhere else and do something different that is going to bring me more happiness and more joy, quite honestly. So if you feel like there is a clear career path, you know where you're headed, yeah, stay. I totally get it. Give yourself some grace, because I know that things change so quickly within corporate environments. You know, you can be in one fiscal year and things are being run a certain way, and you could have a leadership change, and in that same fiscal year, things can like totally, you know, be run differently. So we covered those. I want to give you a little sneak peek into some of the questions that will help you within the ebook. There's lots of space within this book, and what I try to tell people is truly the reason this is a digital product. It is free right now for anyone. Is I want to get it in your hands, and I want you, if you're on the fence, to be well equipped to make that decision, right? To be able to look at both sides, the reasons that you would stay and maybe some reasons that you would leave, and to be able to give yourself an honest look at where you're at and where you want to go. So there are lots of pages within here and some questions to prompt you to be able to work through helping to make those decisions. And if you decide to get this book, which I hope you do, it'll be delivered to your email. You can either keep it as a digital product. It's a PDF, so you can save it to your phone, save it to your computer, whatever works for you. Or you can print it out and actually put pen to paper and work through this. Later on in the week, I will be putting out another episode where we will talk about the reasons that you should take into consideration and determining if you should leave the current corporate career that you're in. So thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. And I hope that this episode has served you well. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is linked in the show notes. And the link, like I said, for this free ebook, Corporate Crossroads, Should I Stay or Should I Leave, is also in the show notes. So make sure you grab your copy today. So, are you ready to start your own corporate detox journey? Well, if you are, make sure that you check out McWhorter.net for different ways to work with me, as well as some freebies that could help you get started. If you're on social media, follow me at Amanda K. McWhorter on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.